Have you ever stretched your legs in the morning and quietly hoped your knees would cooperate when you stood up? Most men over 60 believe that if they stay flexible, their joints will stay healthy. So they stretch every day and assume they're doing everything right. But what if the real issue isn't tightness at all? What if your muscles are actually getting weaker, even while they feel flexible? I'm Dr. James Foster, and I've worked with thousands of men over 50 who thought their joints were simply wearing out. Before we go further, tell me in the comments, do your knees feel weaker than they did 5 years ago? Because what I'm about to explain may completely change how you protect your joints after 60. Most men I talk to over 60 tell me the same thing. They say, "Doc, my joints just aren't what they used to be. Knees feel stiff. Hips feel unreliable. Stairs start to look a little taller than they did 10 years ago." And naturally, most men assume the problem is the joints themselves. They believe the cartilage is simply wearing out because that's what aging does. But in many cases, the real issue is happening somewhere else entirely. Your joints are not designed to carry your body alone. They rely on the muscles around them to act like shock absorbers. Those muscles stabilize the knee when you step down a stair. They hold the hips steady when you walk. They protect the spine every time you bend forward to pick something up. Now here's the quiet change that begins happening after about age 50. Your body slowly starts losing muscle mass. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but year after year, small fibers begin to disappear. Strength fades little by little. Most men don't even notice it because the process is gradual. This is known as age-related muscle loss, and it affects nearly every man as he moves into his 60s. I remember one patient who came to see me convinced he needed knee surgery. His scans looked relatively normal. What he actually had was severe weakness in the muscles above the knee. Once we rebuilt strength there, his knee pain improved dramatically. And this is where things get interesting, because the muscles that protect your joints respond very quickly once they're activated again, even in men over 60. But there's one mistake almost every man makes when trying to fix this problem, and it starts with the belief that stretching alone will solve it. One of the most common things I hear from men over 50 is this: "Doctor, I stretch every morning." And that's a good habit. Stretching keeps tissues flexible, improves circulation, and helps your body feel looser when you start the day. But here's the misunderstanding that quietly causes problems for many men as they move into their 60s. Flexibility and strength are not the same thing. Stretching lengthens muscles and tendons. It allows your joints to move through a wider range of motion, but it does very little to rebuild the muscle fibers that naturally decline with age. After about 50, men begin losing muscle at a steady pace each year. That loss affects the large, stabilizing muscles that protect your knees, hips, and lower back. When those muscles weaken, the joints underneath them take on more stress. Think of it like the suspension system on a truck. If the shocks are strong, the ride feels stable. But if those shocks weaken, every bump in the road travels straight into the frame. Your body works the same way. I had a patient in his mid-60s who stretched religiously every morning. Hamstrings, calves, lower back. He was flexible enough to touch his toes easily, but he still had knee pain walking downhill. The problem wasn't tightness. It was weakness in the quadriceps and hip stabilizers that were supposed to absorb the load. Once we added simple strength movements a few times a week, the difference in his mobility and energy was dramatic. And this matters for another reason most men don't expect. Strong muscles improve blood flow and circulation around the joints, which helps tissues stay nourished and resilient as testosterone levels gradually shift with age. So stretching is useful. But on its own, it's only half the equation. The real protection for your joints comes from 3 specific muscle groups most men rarely train after 60. When orthopedic specialists look at joint problems in men over 50, we rarely start by looking only at the joint itself. Instead, we look at the muscles that act as the body's natural protection system. I often call them the joint shields because when these muscles are active and strong, they absorb stress before it ever reaches the knee, hip, or spine. The first group sits right on the front of your thighs. These are the quadriceps, and they're responsible for controlling how your knee bends and straightens when you walk, climb stairs, or stand up from a chair. When these muscles weaken with age, the knee joint begins to carry more pressure with every step. That's when men start noticing discomfort going downhill or when getting up from low seats. The second group is the glutes, the large muscles around the hips. These are incredibly important for stability. Strong glutes keep your pelvis steady and your spine aligned when you walk. But after years of sitting at desks, driving, or watching television, these muscles often become dormant. When that happens, your hips lose support and the lower back starts doing work it was never meant to handle. The third group is the deep core muscles around your abdomen and lower spine. These muscles stabilize the entire trunk of your body. When they're weak, every movement becomes less efficient, which drains energy and increases stress on your joints. I once worked with a man in his late 60s who thought his back pain meant his spine was deteriorating. In reality, his glutes and core had simply switched off over time. Once we reactivated those muscles, his posture improved and his pain faded. The good news is these muscles respond quickly once they're awakened again. And there's one simple daily habit that can start activating them faster than most men expect. One of the biggest myths men carry into their 60s is the belief that strength is something you either built when you were younger or lost forever. I hear it constantly. Men tell me, "Doc, I'm too old to rebuild muscle now." But the biology of the human body tells a very different story. Your muscles are remarkably responsive tissue. Even in your 60s and 70s, muscle fibers are still capable of waking up when they receive the right signal. That signal is not extreme workouts or heavy gym routines. In fact, most men over 50 respond better to small, consistent movements that remind the nervous system how to activate those muscles again. When you contract a muscle, even lightly, your brain sends a signal through the nerves telling those fibers to engage. Blood flow increases in that area, delivering oxygen and nutrients that support energy production inside the muscle cells. Over time, those repeated signals tell the body that the muscle is still needed. And when the body believes a muscle is needed, it works to preserve it. I saw this happen with a 72-year-old patient who struggled to stand up from chairs without using his hands. Instead of sending him into an intense exercise program, we started with one simple habit. Every day, a few times a day, he practiced slow sit-to-stand movements from a chair, just controlled rising and sitting. Within weeks, the muscles in his thighs and hips began to respond again. The key is consistency, not intensity. 2 or 3 minutes of deliberate movement several times a day can dramatically improve circulation, muscle activation, and even overall energy levels in men over 50. But there's an even smarter way to begin the day that helps these muscles activate before your joints ever face stress. And it starts with something most men do every morning. The morning is the perfect time to signal to your body that your muscles are still needed, and your joints deserve support before you even take your first step out of bed. Many men over 50 wake up, stretch briefly, and rush into the day, assuming flexibility alone will protect them. The truth is, your joints rely on active muscle engagement from the moment you stand. That's why a short, deliberate routine in the first 5 minutes after getting up can make a dramatic difference in circulation, energy, and joint stability. Start with a gentle activation of the quads and glutes. Standing tall, slowly bend one knee and lift the foot toward your glutes, alternating sides for 10 repetitions. This stimulates the thigh muscles and wakes up the hip stabilizers while boosting blood flow to the lower body. Next, add a hip hinge. Place your hands on your thighs, hinge forward slightly while keeping your back neutral, then return upright. This engages your lower back and core muscles while promoting mobility and spinal support. Finally, finish with a slow, controlled march in place for 30 to 60 seconds, lifting the knees comfortably high. This simple movement improves circulation, activates dormant fibers, and primes your joints for the day. I've seen men in their 60s and early 70s regain confidence simply by committing to this 5-minute routine. One patient, who struggled to climb stairs without discomfort, reported feeling noticeably steadier within 2 weeks. The best part is that it doesn't require special equipment or complicated instructions. just consistency and intention. By investing these 5 minutes each morning, you're telling your body and your joints, I still need you. And this sets the stage for the next step, where lifestyle habits silently reinforce that joint protection all day long. Small, consistent habits often make the biggest difference for men over 60, especially when it comes to protecting joints and maintaining energy. Walking, for example, is one of the simplest ways to keep muscles engaged and blood flowing. But it's not just the act of walking, it's how you walk. A purposeful stride, with your shoulders back and core lightly engaged, wakes up the glutes, quads, and spinal stabilizers, delivering oxygen-rich blood exactly where it's needed. Even 10 to 15 minutes of deliberate walking after each meal can improve circulation, support joints, and maintain muscle activity. Another habit that often goes overlooked is protein timing. Men over 50 lose muscle mass gradually, and your body needs regular sources of protein to rebuild and preserve those stabilizing fibers. Spreading protein intake across meals, lean meats, eggs, Greek yogurt, or plant-based options, helps maintain steady energy and support testosterone levels naturally. Combining this with short, targeted movements like mini squats or hip bridges enhances the effects by stimulating circulation and reinforcing joint stability. Hydration is equally important. Joints rely on synovial fluid for smooth movement, and staying hydrated keeps that cushioning effective. Even small drops in water intake can make joints feel stiffer, muscles sluggish, and recovery slower. I often remind my patients that these habits don't require hours at the gym or complicated equipment. They're simple, daily decisions that signal your body to stay strong and resilient. Men who adopt these routines consistently notice steadier knees, less back strain, and improved energy throughout the day. When combined with the morning activation routine, these habits create a foundation that quietly protects joints and keeps men over 60 moving with confidence, setting the stage for long-term mobility and vitality. If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this: your body isn't falling apart. What most men experience after 60 isn't failure. It's simply muscles that haven't been given the right signals anymore. The good news? Muscles can respond at almost any age. I've seen men in their late 60s and even 70s rebuild stability, reduce knee pain, and move with confidence again. Not through extreme workouts, but through small, consistent strength habits. You're not the only man dealing with this. Thousands of men over 50 are quietly going through the same changes. If this video helped you understand your body better, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments your age and what joint bothers you most. Because the more men talk about this, the stronger we all get.